Absolutely. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. And I'm going to go through here with Sage Paperless Construction. I'll make this a demonstration for the whole software with an emphasis on the new OCR module. That is one of the newest additions to the OCR suite here. Now, as I get going, a couple things to note. This is a system that's integrated with all three of the main Sage products. Of course, in Australia, you guys have the two that are most common, the Sage 300 CRE and Intact. It is integrated with both of those two softwares, so no matter which one you're on, you should be fine to add Sage Paperless Construction for that. Now, as this system is a full document management system, we are not limited just to AP invoices, which is most commonly what people have reached out to me about for this product. This can be used to save and store documents for every part of your company. Now, AP is the thing we're going to spend most of our time on today, but you can also use it to save blank forms that you can then fill out and send around. You can use it for human resources and payroll to save and store all of your documentation for your employees and have it locked down with security to allow your employees to view their documents, but not view others. And it has a full audit trail as well to make sure that anyone looking at something or printing or emailing or changing something, everything's tracked and audited and, sorry, got my phones next to me, and available for everyone to see. Now, that being said, you can save and store all of your AP related documents throughout here as well. And this includes doing AP checks, invoices, receiving tickets, credit card receipts, purchase orders, subcontracts, change orders, you name it. If it's a related document to AP, or it's a document you want to save and store and make it available to view by any condition, job, dollar amount, date, cost code, vendor, employee, it all can be done. And that's kind of the beauty of Sage Paperless, is that it becomes that full document repository, but it also allows you to quickly and easily access those documents no matter where you're at. Now, being that accounts payable is a big generator of documentation, that's where we're going to focus on right now. And I'm going to pop over into my invoice entry screen here for accounts payable. Call that AP flow in this case. Now, first thing, when you're bringing your documentation, you can bring them in pretty much any way that you're doing it today. You can drag and drop a document into our screen or onto a queue. You can scan it directly in from your scanner. We can even monitor a folder on your network, or more and more frequently, just have it pull invoices right out of your email. So we can point it to an email folder or inbox in Outlook or Gmail, and we'll grab those invoices, bring them in. The new OCR module works just great in tandem with that, so that when your AP processor comes into AP Flow in Paperless, they could actually open up their invoice for the very first time and have it pretty much coded for them, or at least the vast majority of it, like so. This would be the first look. You know, instead of having to go grab the invoice, figure out where it goes, all that kind of stuff, code it, you just pop it over. And what's happened here is the OCR module has actually read this already. It's matched the vendor to your vendor database back in your Sage accounting. It looks for the invoice number, pulls that, the date, it pulls the dollar total, and then it can even pull your purchase order information and drop those onto the screen as well. Now, it is not doing full line item capture. It's not reading through every single line on the invoice, but it is going to pull all the purchase order information out of accounting, so that you could then just do that human aspect and make any modifications that are appropriate, and then hit add to invoice. It's a huge time saver, and that then gets you ready to hit the route button, or it'll then send it off for routing and approval based on the coding that you just had there. Send it off to the project manager to get approved on that side, or have it go based on dollar amount, send it over to one of your controllers or CFOs. And then maybe some vendors are special and they just go straight to someone in the company that needs to validate for that vendor. Anything that's on this invoice can determine the routing and approval of it based off that. Now, that's if it's got a purchase order. We, of course, can handle all types of invoices when it comes to OCR and AP Flow in general. If you have an invoice that is a overhead expense, something that when this vendor comes in, it's always coded the same way, you can assign a specific general ledger code or coding schema to that vendor, and then the system will automatically log that and then even route it for you without you even having to look at it if you'd like it to do so. As I said, of course, some people want to still have their AP team look at it, but if you're fine with it, hey, we always know that this particular vendor gets routed as an invoice for internet, and so we don't need to worry about figuring out what job it goes to or anything like that. It's just a general overhead expense that can be auto routed. In fact, with the purchase orders, it's kind of a similar situation. If your PO is fully committed and the invoice matches 100% to what's left on that purchase order, you could tell the system to automatically route that and not even bother the AP processor. So there's a lot of automation we can add just by adding a little bit of more of having OCR read your invoice. Now, this is a very powerful OCR tool because not only is it just grabbing information to do it, it's doing it in an intelligent manner. If I go pull up the system behind what's running here, what's happening is the OCR is actually matching your vendor to your vendor database. As I mentioned, that it pulls right out of accounting, but it's also just looking for keywords on the invoice. You don't have to create a template for every single vendor. It will, most vendors right out of the box say, hey, here's the word invoice or invoice number or invoice NUM, and it'll find the number next to it. Same thing for date and purchase order number and total dollar amount. Now, it might make a mistake. In this case, it grabbed our order number instead of your order number, and maybe that's the one we want. By the way, obviously this is a US-based invoice. I know things are a little bit more, you have better rules in Australia than we have over here, so people are a little, more leeway to do wrong things here in the US, but that just means it's more accurate in Australia than it is in America. I can correct this though if I just hit delete, point to the right location I do want, and hit save. The system then remembers that, and if you do it enough times, and basically enough for the system to say, this is a consistent change you just did, this is not a one-off, it will then permanently start looking in that spot for that vendor. So it's almost like you created a special template for that vendor because it was a little different. And the system learns and gets smarter and more accurate the more you use it. Now, again, we are talking a lot about accounts payable today and invoices. The OCR is not limited to invoices though. You can literally use the OCR to grab any type of document that you have a consistent amount of that has a consistent formula for which to grab it. So if you have, you might have a document from a loan or something like that, where you get those lots of times, or you might have a daily field report where you do a job walkthrough and you need to pull information off of it. There's a consistent pattern. We can actually use the OCR to automatically read any document and pull the information off and save it within the system, including accounts payable checks or whatever it is you might want. But invoices is what we call the low-hanging fruit. It's easy to do, it's ready to go, and you can just have those start pulling over and get your invoices routed around for approval. So that being said, now your invoices get sent over to the appropriate people for approval, and that will look very similar to this, or through our e-portal. We do have a website available for people to approve remotely if they happen to not be on a job or being out at a job site and not back in the office. But the primary place for people to do approvals is right here in Paperless. So here I'll see my invoice header information up here at the top. I'll see all the lines of distribution, and this is a non-purchase order invoice, so it actually allows me to change coding on it. POs, of course, follow the rules of the accounting system. You got to make changes to the PO if you need to make changes. But if it is an overhead or a direct expense, then you can allow your project managers or whoever is that is approving these to make changes if you so happen to want them to, because there might be some people who consistently put the wrong information, and you can block them and say, no, 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 if you say this is wrong, you have to reject it, and then we'll fix it in accounts payable. But there's others you might trust to change it, and we just go ahead and let them change it. The system will track that in the audit log, so that if you ever go back and say, well, why did you switch it to electrical wiring? You go to the audit log and you'll see that it used to be demolition, and then you can even switch it back if you need to. So we do track everything. That's another key component of Sage Paperless, is there's a full audit trail, let you know who's looking at what, did they print it, did they email it, did they change anything. This approval screen's also designed to where they don't have to go look in other places to do their approval. Everything is available here. So I can just click a button and see what the budgeted amount for that job and cost code is, what's currently been job costed to date, anything remaining. And of course, in this case, it's telling me I'm over and there's a variance of $138. That would probably stop me there and make me have to do some type of change. In fact, you can set up errors or warnings to prevent them from hitting the approve button if it is over budget, or if it's over commitment, or if it's out of compliance. Because we track all three things when you go to approve to make sure you have a valid invoice that you're sending. And compliance can give a little threshold if you want to say, you know, it's okay to go 5% above a commitment. You can make those rules within the system. Also, if you do any matching of receiving tickets and purchase orders and things like that, we have a document match button here, which pulls all the related information to the invoice, including those things I just said, and allows you to have full packets of invoices with all the other documentation along with it. You can view vendor history from here. You can email this to ask questions, and of course, approve, reject, put it on hold, whatever you need to do with the invoice. But it becomes an easy place for everyone to do their approvals within here. And once everything has been approved, we then export them back over into your Sage accounting so that your invoice is ready to be paid and sent on its way. But we do give you more tools to make sure that you're paying them properly, and that's with our check review here. So in our system, you can pull up either the marked for payment or the check number at the after you've paid it. So it depends on how you do things. A lot of companies will do a mark for payment report. So before you print the checks out, you go in, you mark everything for payment in accounting, and then you come over here and you say, here's everything, here's all the vendors I marked for payment, here's what the invoice is associated, here's the documents for them, here's the reviewers, here's the notes, here's the markups or whatever somebody has put all over the document to make sure I know exactly what's happening. And then they'll say, okay, this is good, this is not good. They remove the things you're not going to approve or pay, and then they print. At that point, it's probably going to go to the owner or somebody to sign those checks. We have another section where you just choose the check number range on here. And instead of that, you having to collate all the information, photocopies, all that kind of stuff, the person sending the checks just takes the checks in hand, plugs the check run range here, and they'll get the same documents, same notes, same information, but based on check number. And so they can validate and then sign confidently without having to worry about where is everything at. So easy way to get the information out by check number or by vendor number to view when you're reviewing your checks. Now that being said, that's the main workflow for the system. Coming in, getting it read, OCR'd, routed for approval, and then once fully approved, we have the check review to view it. Throughout that whole process, you have reports and an invoice manager to track exactly what's going on with your company. So specifically on the report side of things, we've got a ton of different reports that'll give you information. There's two in particular I like. The unapproved invoice aging by reviewer report is one that you can run, and it'll give you a quick snapshot of all of your reviewers and how long have they been sitting on invoices and how many dollars are outstanding. Now, in my demo data set, everything's overdue. And you'll just see that in any of these reports, everything's overdue in my system. But in reality, you'll be looking at these reports saying current, 2 to 3 days, 4 to 5 days, 6 to 7 days, whatever the breakdown you'd like to see there. And then quickly you can see, in this case, Theodore's got 2 invoices, over 3 months old, or I think it's half a year or whatever it is. I can then drill down, see all of the invoices that they're sitting on, and then I can even email this to them right out of the system. So it's a quick way for me to view, here's the invoice, that's person reviewing them, and then send it over. On the other side, you can see how efficient these people are being by running our invoice reviewer stats report. This is a report you can run on a month or on a quarter or just in time, and it will tell you in that time frame how many invoices did they approve, what was their longest and shortest, and what was their average length of time. So if some of your reviewers are averaging 2 days to approve, that's good. You'd like to get them down to 1 day, so anyone reviewing it doing 1 day on average, that's great. You can reward them however you feel like it. Someone's at 5 days, you go give them a talking to. It's information that's really hard to get without a report telling you it specifically, and now you would have that report in Sage Paperless to let you know how efficient your reviewers are being. So hopefully you can use that in a good way to make sure your people are always taking care of things quickly and efficiently. Now, if you're more of a query, inquiry style person, you like data where you can play with it instead of reports, we've got an Invoice Manager for you. Now, in this case, you could pull up all of your invoices based on different statuses. So in this case, I'm looking at all my approved invoices here. In fact, I might take this to, export them over or take different steps with them. But you can also do it based on pending. And this will show you everything outstanding that has not yet been approved. And some people, I have a couple customers that always come in and sort this by discount date, and they try to gather any discounts they're about to lose at the end of each day. So they'll come in here and say, oh, I'm about to lose this discount. They'll look at the reviewers, see who's waiting on, say, oh, Oliver, he's on vacation. He's not even back for 2 days. I'm going to lose this discount. As long as the invoice is coded properly and you can pull up the invoice to view that, you can actually do an approve right here and force approve this invoice and get it done. You're not stuck by the whims of whoever needs to log in. As a supervisor in the company, you probably have security access to bypass and do so. You can't do this, but it's an option there for you if you do. Just easier ways to manage your data and get it over to the right place and not get stuck with anything. Lastly, on the invoice workflow piece, there is an easy way to get information out of the system when you have any billings that require backup documentation. Now, there's different ways we can do it. The one that I prefer today is our Invoice Search utility. With this, I can come in and I can create my own custom searches. I'm going to do this by job right now. And let's say you have your time and material, your progress billing, whatever you're doing in accounting where you need to get that backup documentation to provide along with your customer bill. You plug in the fields you want to see, of course, the ranges that you want to run it for, job, date range, possibly cost code or phase. And then from there, you just get this report back out there. And if you highlight everything, you'll notice that it has a dollar total at the bottom. You can use this to validate to your accounting that you actually have the right billing amount, because it might say, oh, you know what, this one's not supposed to be on there. I accidentally included it. So now you got your total correct. All you got to do now is print, email, or save to file, and all of your backup documentation, all your invoices will show up in one of those three selections, whichever one you picked. And you can just turn them into your customer. And if you'd like to see it in a report, export to CSV, we'll take this and put it into Excel, so you have a nice little report to give it to. Quick way to get your data out of the system and into the hands of those that need to see it. And that's not to say anything of the other search utilities we have, because we do have the ability to search by any criteria for other documentation as well, besides just invoices. And we do have direct access to all of this information in Sage Accounting, specifically in Sage 300 CRE. You can pull up any job cost report and then drill down, inquiry, any job cost inquiry, and then drill down to the related documents, or drill down to the on the job itself, or to the invoice or the purchase order or the subcontract. Anywhere within Sage 300 where you would have related documents, you'll be able to view the documents right out of that too. In fact, if I were to talk to, and I have done this many times, I talk to some of our customers that have been on the system for 10+ years and ask them, what's the thing that you like the most about the system? And they'll say, hey, I came in here for the AP workflow, but it's getting documents out of the system at the speed of thought is what really makes this that much more powerful. So we don't necessarily look for that every day, but then when we need to go find something, it saves us hour potentially of digging through data, trying to find it and collate and make backups. And that is the real time saver at the end of the day, even though the rest of the system is going to provide you time savers regardless. Now, on a side piece to accounts payable, we also have a credit card importer. This is a tool that can automatically pull in your transaction file from your credit card or bank and allow you to basically turn that into an invoice and get it paid really fast. Now, we usually recommend, if you're going to do this, we have an app called eCapture for your smartphone, and that app will allow you to actually take pictures of things and save them as documents right from your smartphone. So commonly in this case would of course be credit card receipts, but it could also be packing slips, receiving tickets, job photos, you name it. For credit card receipts specifically, you actually can snap that picture. It even has an OCR if you use the eCapture Advanced module. there's an OCR on that too. So they can OCR the credit card receipts. It'll pull in the name of the vendor you just purchased, the dollar amount, all that stuff. And so you don't have to type it all in, although you can also type it in. And you can also include additional information like job or cost code or GL account if you want to. Not all project managers like to fill in extra information. You can always send that back to somebody in the office. But in a perfect world, your people in the field are snapping pictures of their credit card receipts. They're coding out the job and the cost code for what they bought that for. And then you on the accounts payable side would then import in that transaction file from your bank. And you can split it up into one or more invoices. And from here, we hit the match receipts button, and it will go and find all those receipts that were brought into the system. It will then match them up and pull over any of that coding that those people in the field had done. So the job and the cost code come over without the AP person having to go hunt them down or ask questions or and that stuff. Great way to be more efficient. And you can also validate the information just by double clicking on the little green check mark. And that will then show you, in this case, Home Depot. Here's the receipt, Home Depot. Great, I got this all. Now, there could be this scenario where somebody didn't upload the receipt, and that will then come over as a question mark. Now, it's possible that it was just miscoded. So you can do a search in the system and try to find that receipt. But if it definitely was not miscoded, you know that they just didn't import it for you. You just do a request here, you find your person, and you can either send them an alert in paperless, send them an email or a text message, and it will shoot them off and get that information from them. So at that point, you just probably remove this line from the invoice, cut the check out for this, because we just import this right into accounting, and then you can come back and get the rest of those lines later on once those receipts have been brought in. Or just go ahead and pay it, and knowing you don't have the receipt, that might be acceptable too. This is just another tool that is part of the Sage Paperless Construction repertoire. Now, going back to where I started, let's go round robin here. Invoices come in, they get routed for approval, all that kind of stuff. Again, we have plenty of different tools to find your information when you need it. So now that we've gotten invoices, credit card receipts, things in the system, you can search by anything that you've plugged them in by. So for an invoice and for AP, of course, you have options. I can search by vendor, I can search by job, and then find exactly what I need there. But I also can create browser searches. You find in a lot of days, a lot of people are using folders on network drives to store documentation. You might have a folder for each job, and then each job folder is split up into different things. We allow for a mock version of that, a dynamic version of those same folders. And so somebody who's very much used to clicking on their job folder and getting all their job stuff can still do that. In fact, I've got this called Browser. It's Vincent's. It's a bunch of random reports of all kind of mushed together into one for demo purposes, but every person would have their own custom layout. Your AP person has an AP section. Human resources payroll has their own, and they don't have to see everyone else's stuff. I just kind of put it all together so you can all see it all and visualize it. But the great thing is this, I just click on job 1000 here. Every document in the system for job 1000 appears. It could be anything, literally. If it's coded to the job, it's appeared. Now I might want to break that down. I can have a subfolder here and say, you know what, I want to see just drawings. Maybe you have some estimates that you would plug in here. You can save those. Those are one of the things you can put in the system. In fact, it doesn't have to be an image. This one here at the top is an Excel document. It can be Excel, Word, whatever. And then I might go and say, you know what, I want to see this down by invoice now, and then I want to see it based on a certain date range. Now from there, that just then breaks it down to that level of detail. That's coming from the job level. Again, you have people that are very much used to that. The accounts payable team or the controller, the CFO, or whoever might want to start at AP. You just click on the AP folder, there's everything AP related. Now let's see everything for a certain vendor. Let's see the credit card receipts. Let's see invoices. Let's drill that down to the job 1000 and then down to the date range. You get the exact same data, but using the way you think and not just how the system was originally put in. It's a great way to have your own custom searches without having to compromise how you want to find the data. Or again, you can just come back over here, do a main search, or even do a keyword search. Find me everything with concrete in the name or in some capacity, and that's how it works. Now, that being the main system, There are definitely some edge cases. I'm not going to cover them all in the demo today, but I just want to let you know there's some other things out there that you might want to take advantage of with Sage Paperless. Things like e-forms, to create your own custom forms, have them filled out in the field, and then saved back in the system. Literally, these forms could be anything you want them to be. They can, pull lists out of Sage Accounting, job list, vendor list, employee list, whatever they are. They can capture signatures, GPS coordinates, yes, no questions with sub questions when you ask. It can provide direction. So creating a daily field report for people to fill out in the field or anything like that. Our eForms tool is very powerful, and you can use it for plenty of different needs for there. And again, all those forms just save within the system. We also have a document routing system for non-invoices. And so this means if you wanted to have a subcontract change order get routed for approval, or one of those documents you created out of eForms get routed for approval, we can do that too. It's not just limited, and that means you can come in here and see exactly what have I routed out. I've routed out a lot of stuff. You can see who you're waiting on for any approvals. You can see all the notes, all the documentation. Again, you can send any document for approval through our doc route module, and whatever that might be for your company that you need. And again, audit trails will track everything, so you know who looked at it, how long did they look at it, did they make any changes. All that is recorded and tracked. We have a life cycle management on your documentation as well. So you can say how long should they be in the system before being purged out. Let's say they become a liability after 10 years. You don't want them after 10 years, so the system can purge them out after that point. You can have the system also auto archive stuff for you, and even make snapshots and changes if you are updating documents. So let's say it is a drawing that you're saving in the system. Anytime you download it, make a correction to it, change it up, do whatever you need, the system can make a snapshot of that each time, so you can always roll back and look at older versions. Lots of different things we can do in the system on the document management side. But again, AP was my primary focus today, so that's where we're gonna kind of stick there. So as I'm looking at the clock here, I'm about halfway through the hour allotted, but that really is the demonstration I came here to show you guys today. So at this point, we can either be done and you guys can have your lunch and learn and continue on, or if there's any questions you'd like me to open the floor for, I'm more than happy to answer any questions anyone has out there. So Jacinda, I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you very much, Vincent. That was really a great demonstration and a great overview of what Sage Paperless Construction can do. If anybody's got any questions, please unmute yourself, or if I have the settings such a way you're unable to mute yourself, please pop something up in the chat bar and Vincent can address those questions for you. Does anybody have any questions? I'm trying to press the unmute all button, but I don't think I'm successful. I'm sorry.
I think it's an individual thing, Jacinda.
Okay, thank you, Janelle. Well, please, if you have any questions, add them to the chat bar. We'll just hold the meeting open for a few more minutes for anyone to have an opportunity to pop some questions in.
And it doesn't offend me if you guys have no questions. I've been doing this for, I don't even know how many years now. I want to say 9 years. And I try to round up all questions with things I say throughout the presentation. So it's no offense if no questions are asked either.
Fantastic. Thanks, Vincent. And I would say, yes, you definitely were very thorough throughout the demonstration with explaining the way the system works. Thank you. I think we'll have a few customers who'll be very excited to see that OCR function coming on to paperless construction. Okay, well, I want to say thank you so much, Vincent, and thank you for everybody who attended. I will stop recording now and close off the meeting, and thank you all.